a man with him until the breaking of the day. Everybody say, the breaking.
The breaking.
And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint. Everybody say, out of joint.
Out of joint.
As he wrestled with him, and he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go except thou bless me. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as the prince has thou power with God and with men, and has prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou doest act after my name? He says, and he blessed him there. You may have your seats. I want y'all to follow me and use your imagination. So I'm laying on my sofa, and the Spirit of the Lord began to speak to me while I was there after I had prayed for a significant amount of time. And the Lord said, I want you to go and tell the people. He said, tell them that something is about to break. He said, but tell the people that there's a process to experiencing the break of that something. So I say, God, how am I going to explain the process when I don't even know the approach? So then God said to me, and it's going to blow your mind, God said, go fix me an egg. And so I proceeded to go to the kitchen, and when I got there, I opened up the refrigerator and I pulled out a carton of eggs, but it was only one single egg left in the carton. And I set it on the counter, and before I can do anything else, God said, write that down. God said, the fact that you pulled the egg out of the refrigerator symbolized the first action to the process of experiencing the break. I said, God, what is that? He said, God said, the first step to you experiencing your break is for me to break you out of some things. God said, I got to break you out of some habits. I got to break you out of some comfort zones, some relationships, and some atmospheres that don't have my signature of approval. He says that has caused a battle in your mind.
Yeah, all right, now come on now.
I want you to go with me to Exodus chapter 3. If you don't mind. Exodus chapter 3. And I want you to go right down to about the 7th verse. Exodus chapter 3, verse 7. It says there, and the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people, which are in where?
Egypt.
And have heard their cry by reason of their taskmaster. He says, for I know their sorrows. Verse 8 says this, and I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land, and a large unto a land flowing with milk and honey. We can stop right there. I just want to show you something. The first thing I want you to notice that he says, and the Lord said, I have surely, he says, seen the affliction. When you look at the word affliction in the Hebrew, it is the word oni. It simply means the mental suffering and the mind battle. So God says, you know, I've seen the mental suffering and the mind battle of my people. And then he says, which are in, he says, Egypt. Now, the word Egypt here symbolizes a place of bondage, a place of imprisonment, a place of stronghold, a place of oppression, depression, and recession.
Come on, man. Come on now.
He says, watch this. He says, so we can put it this way. He says, I have seen the mental suffering and the mind battle of my people, which are in bondage, imprisonment, stronghold, oppression, depression, and recession. Watch this, he says, and I have heard their cry. Watch this now. The word cry here in the Hebrew is tesa'ak, which symbolized that it was a cry that implied distress, sorrow, and horror.
Come on now. Come on.
It meant that they had come to a point in their life that could not be changed by mortal man.
Come on now. Come on now.
So watch
Come on,
this.
Rev.
So in essence, God says, I have heard the distress, sorrow, and horror of my people who are in a place of bondage, imprisonment, stronghold,
Come on, Rev.
oppression, depression, and
Yeah,
recession,
come on, Rev.
which
Come on.
has caused a result of mental suffering and a mind battle.
Come on now. Come on. Come on. Pitch it up.
Everybody say a mind
Come
battle.
on now.
It is here, and you probably won't find this in no book because this is what God gave me. It is a war that normally occurs when the dial of your mind is set from auto to manual.
All right now. Come on now. Come on now. Come on. Come on, Rev. Come on now.
The word auto meaning that is automatically on guard.
Yeah.
From the time you're born, you know the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
The word manual meaning that is all man. It normally develops when spiritual purpose in the mind get tangled up with fleshly passion.
Come on now. Come on, Rev.
In other words, it's when you switch from the automatic God saying nothing shall separate me from the love of God to the manual saying, but God knows my heart.
Pitch it up now. Come on now. Pitch it.
It is one in whom has developed a double mind.
Come on.
Are y'all following me here?
Yeah.
I just want to go here just for a minute. You can be free in your praise. You can be free in your worship. You can be free in your dance and your clap and in your song.
Yeah.
But if you are having a battle in your mind, you're still in bondage. James 1:8 says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Now, I can deal with the mind, but if I dealt with the mind, I'd be here all day. So if y'all mind, I just want to move on. And so watch this. He says, there's a battle in the mind because of the stronghold, because of the oppression, depression, recession. In verse 8, I want you to notice this. He says, and I am come down. I want you to notice that there's a movement that has happened because God loved the people so much that when he seen the mind battle, it caused God to move. One thing I want you to understand about the move of God, though, whenever God has to move from coming up to down, that becomes a shift in the atmosphere. It means that the atmosphere has just shifted. Now, if I could get you to touch your neighbor and say, neighbor, the atmosphere has just shifted. Oh, go on. Watch this now. Watch this. It means that God is coming from immortality to deal with mortality. It means that God has to leave from out of eternity to deal with time. You're hearing me here. So he says, and I have got to bust a move. He said to, watch this, in verse 8, he says to deliver. You look at that word deliver in